The forgotten warship, the galaxy, had long since forgotten humanity. The once proud species, known for their courage and determination, had vanished from the stars. Their warships, feared by countless alien species, were destroyed in a brutal war that seemed to last forever. As the years passed, humanity's name became nothing more than a whisper in the dark, a forgotten legend told in the quiet corners of the galaxy. No one expected them to return, but deep in the dark void of space, something stirred. The silence of the galaxy was broken by a faint, almost imperceptible signal. It was a signal unlike any the alien fleets had received before. The galaxies were at peace, or so they thought. The great empires, from the Zothari to the Nyrax, had grown complacent. They had no reason to fear humanity anymore. For years, they had ruled unchallenged. Their fleets, enormous and powerful, had crushed every threat, their forces uniting to secure control over vast stretches of the galaxy. Humanity, defeated and scattered, was nothing more than a fading memory, or so they believed. Then, out of the cold, empty darkness, came the signal. It began as a simple flicker, almost dismissed as another space anomaly. But as it grew stronger, the alert systems of the alien fleets went off. The message was unmistakable. Human warship detected. Location, Sector 47. Admiral Vrek of the Zothari Empire, one of the most feared leaders in the galaxy, leaned over his command console, his sharp eyes focused on the data flashing across his screen. He had heard rumors of humanity's warship stories told in whispers, but he never believed them. He couldn't. Humanity had been wiped out years ago, confirmed the source. He barked, his voice firm. His officers scrambled to verify the signal. The ship was large, possibly larger than anything the Zothari had ever faced. But what stunned Vrek was the design. It was unmistakably human. The shape, the energy signatures, everything pointed to one conclusion. Humanity was not gone. They were back. This can't be true, Vrek muttered, his mind racing. He had seen the best technology the galaxy had to offer, but this human warship was something new, something different. Prepare the fleet. If this is true, we must deal with it immediately. On the human side of the galaxy, aboard the warship that had been thought lost forever, Commander Elena Cross stood in front of the main console, her expression calm but filled with purpose. The ship's crew, a mix of veterans and new recruits, stood behind her, all eyes on the monitors. The ship had been in hiding for years, kept in stasis while its human occupants waited for the moment to return. Cross was not just the commander of a warship. She was a symbol of humanity's last chance. The warship, once a beacon of power, had been kept hidden to protect it from the larger empires. But now, the time had come to emerge from the shadows. "Commander," Lieutenant Jackson said, his voice filled with awe, "the signal is getting stronger. We're close to the conflict zone. It's time." Cross nodded, her fingers gently tapping the control panel. Yes, it's time. The massive human warship, designed for the worst kind of battle, powered up. Its engines hummed to life, and, for the first time in years, the ship's weapon systems began to charge. The crew felt the vibrations beneath their feet as the colossal ship rumbled. They had been waiting for this moment, preparing for years, knowing that the galaxy would not welcome their return. Cross looked out at the vast expanse of space. Through the bridge's massive view screen, the stars were bright, but the emptiness around them was overwhelming. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to think back to Earth, back to the world that had been left behind. But only for a moment. There was no time for memories now. The fate of humanity lay ahead. "Bring up the map of the scepter," Cross ordered, her voice steady. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the star systems ahead. The conflict zone was filled with tension. Alien empires had been fighting for control, but humanity's sudden reappearance would change everything. "Commander, we've been detected," another officer reported. "The alien fleets are on the move. They've already started responding to our signal." Cross stared at the map, her mind working quickly. The galaxy was about to find out that humanity was not gone. They were not forgotten, and they were not weak. "Prepare for incoming communications," Cross ordered, her gaze unwavering. "We will make our presence known within moments." A communication channel opened. The face of an alien general appeared on the screen. His features were sharp, his eyes filled with the cold certainty of someone who had never considered humanity as a serious threat. "This is Admiral Koth of the Varnak Empire." The alien growled. "You have no place here. Turn back now, or face the consequences." Cross's lips curled into a faint smile. "We never left, Admiral, and we're not going anywhere." The screen cut off, but Cross's resolve only grew stronger. The message had been delivered. The universe would now know the truth. Humanity had returned, and they were ready to reclaim their place in the galaxy. "Engage the engines," Cross ordered. "Let's remind them who we are." As the warship moved forward into the conflict zone, the galaxy's balance of power was about to shift. The ancient empires, who had ruled with ease for so long, would soon face a challenge they never saw coming. Humanity had been written off, but now they were ready to write their own future, and the battle for the galaxy was about to begin. The first confrontation. The galaxy had watched in stunned silence as humanity's warship emerged from the shadows. For years, the great alien empires, Varnok, Zothari, and Nyrex, had ruled without fear of any threats from Earth. But now, in the cold expanse of space, that era was over. Humanity's warship had returned, and its reappearance sparked a chain of events no one could have predicted. Admiral Vrek of the Zothari Empire was the first to react. His hands gripped the armrests of his command chair, his mind racing as his fleet prepared to move. The Zothari Empire had long prided itself on being the most powerful force in the galaxy. No one had ever dared to challenge them. But now, a single human ship had appeared, and it was clear that they were more than just survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. "Alert all fleets," Vrek ordered, his voice low and filled with authority. "Humanity has returned, and they intend to claim their place in the galaxy. We will not let this happen. Prepare for immediate action." As Vrek's command center buzzed with activity, Commander Elena Cross stood tall on the bridge of the human warship. The crew moved with precision, preparing for the battle that was now inevitable. The massive warship rumbled as its weapons systems came online, and the faintest hint of a smile touched Cross's lips. They had waited years for this moment. The time to strike was now. Commander Lieutenant Jackson said, his voice tense. "The Varnik fleet is approaching. They're already sending out orders to engage. What do we do?" Cross turned to face him, her expression cold but resolute. "We don't retreat, Lieutenant. We don't back down. Humanity isn't here to fight for survival. We're here to take back what's ours." The crew murmured in agreement. They had no intention of running from a fight. Humanity had been forgotten for too long, and now they would make the galaxy remember their name. "Shields up, all weapons online," Cross commanded, prepared to meet them head-on. We will make the first move. As the human warship powered forward, the Varnak fleet closed in. The two forces, one ancient, the other newly awakened, faced off in the heart of space. The tension in the air was palpable. Both sides knew that this battle would determine the future of the galaxy. The stakes could not have been higher. The Varnak ships opened fire first, their weapons unleashing a storm of energy beams toward the human warship. The crew of the human ship braced for impact as the first blasts hit. The warship shook violently, but its shields held strong. Humanity had prepared for this moment. The Varnak, on the other hand, had underestimated their enemy. "Shields holding steady," Jackson reported, his voice filled with awe. "They're strong, Commander. Stronger than we expected." "Good," Cross replied with a nod. "They're not prepared for our next move." Without warning, the human warship launched its counterattack. The energy cannons, powerful beyond anything the Varnak had ever seen, fired back at the alien fleet. The blasts tore through the darkness, striking the Varnak ships with deadly precision. One by one, the enemy ships began to fall, their shields weakening, their systems failing. The Varnak fleet was in disarray. They had expected to crush humanity with ease, but instead they found themselves in a fight they were not prepared for. As their ships were destroyed, Admiral Vrek watched in horror, his mind struggling to comprehend the power humanity wielded. "This is impossible," Vrek shouted, slamming his fist on the console. "How are they doing this? How are they so strong?" His officers scrambled to find an answer, but there was no clear explanation. The human warship, though outnumbered, was holding its ground. Worse, it was pushing the Varnak back. This was not just a battle, it was a statement. Humanity had returned, and they were ready to reclaim their place in the stars. On the human warship, Commander Cross stood calmly as the battle raged around her. She watched as Varnak ships fell one by one, their once proud fleet crumbling under the weight of humanity's power. "Target their engines," Cross ordered. "Take out their ability to retreat." The human ship fired once more, sending a precise shot directly to the Varnak flagship's engine core. The explosion sent shockwaves through the Varnak fleet, and the flagship, the heart of the Varnak Empire, was destroyed in a single, catastrophic blast. The enemy ships, now without leadership, scattered in chaos. "We did it," Jackson said, his voice filled with disbelief. "We actually did it." Cross allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, but she knew this victory was only the beginning. The galaxy had just witnessed humanity's return, and it would take more than one battle to secure their place among the stars. The Varnak would not be the last to challenge them. "This is only the first step," Cross said, turning to face her crew. "Humanity is back, and we will fight for our future." As the human warship floated in the silence of space, the once confident Varnak fleet in retreat, Commander Cross knew that their next challenge was already waiting. The galaxy would not simply accept humanity's return, but that didn't matter. Humanity had always risen to the challenge, and this time would be no different. The battle for the galaxy had begun, and humanity, once thought lost, was leading. The charge, the shifting alliances, the dust of the first battle had barely settled before the galaxy began to react. News of humanity's powerful warship spread like wildfire, reaching the farthest corners of the galaxy, to the most distant and powerful empires. What was once a quiet sector of space, filled with complacent alien rulers, now found itself at the center of an explosive power shift. Humanity, believed to be extinct, had returned with a vengeance, and their first battle had left the alien powers scrambling. On the bridge of the human warship, Commander Alina Kraus stood in front of the communication console, staring at the results of the first confrontation. The Varnic fleet had been crippled, but Cross knew that this was just the beginning. She had anticipated resistance, but she hadn't expected the galaxy to react so quickly. "Commander," Lieutenant Jackson said, his voice tight with unease, "we're receiving messages from several factions. The Zotheri and Nyrax are responding, ... and they're not happy." Cross turned, her expression unreadable. "I expected that. The Zothri Empire, known for its fierce aggression and unmatched firepower, was one of the most powerful factions in the galaxy. They had ruled with an iron fist for centuries, eliminating any threat before it could even emerge. The Nyrax, a cold and calculating race, had always preferred to stay in the shadows, manipulating others for their own gain. Neither would be happy to see humanity's sudden resurgence. "They're sending fleets toward us, Commander," Jackson continued. "It looks like they intend to join forces ... against us." Cross crossed her arms, deep in thought. She had known that reaction would come. When you upset the balance of power, the consequences were inevitable. But this was something she hadn't fully prepared for. The alien factions that had dominated the galaxy for so long were now faced with a choice: unite against humanity or risk losing their control forever. "We don't have time to wait for them to make a decision," Cross said, her voice steady and firm. "Get me a direct line to their fleets. It's time to make our move." As the communication lines opened, the faces of the Zotheri and Nyrax leaders appeared on the screen. Their expressions were filled with skepticism and disdain, but also something else: fear. "Humanity," the Zotheri general, Varek, sneered. "You have made a grave mistake. You've upset the natural order. The galaxy belongs to the powerful, and you are not powerful enough to claim a place here. Turn back now, or face the consequences." Cross met his gaze with calm confidence. "We've been forgotten, General, but we are not weak. Humanity is strong, and we're here to stay. We won't turn back." The Nyrax Queen, Terra, remained silent for a moment, her cold eyes studying the human warship on the screen. Her voice, when it finally came, was chilling. "Your return is ... unexpected," she said, "but we will not allow you to disrupt the delicate balance we've fought for centuries to maintain. We offer you a chance. Join us, and we will spare you. Resist, and you will face the full force of the galaxy." Cross listened to their words, her mind working quickly. She knew the power of the Zotheri and Nyrax. Their fleets could crush humanity in an instant if they worked together. But she also knew something they didn't. Humanity was not alone. In the shadows, allies had been waiting for this moment to strike, and those allies were ready to act. "I've heard your offer," Cross replied, her voice unshaken. "But humanity has never needed anyone's permission to exist. We're not here to make alliances. We're here to take our place among the stars. If you choose to fight, we will be ready." With a final glance, the screen went dark. The Zotheri and Nyrax fleets were on their way, but so were the human allies that had quietly watched from afar. Cross's decision was clear. Humanity would not be crushed, and they would not bend to anyone. They would fight, and they would fight hard. The human warship turned, its engines roaring as it powered toward the heart of the galaxy. The war was far from over, but now humanity had a choice. They could cower in the shadows, or they could rise and challenge the galaxy's most powerful empires. Cross knew the cost of their decision, but it was a cost they were willing to pay. Across the galaxy, in the shadows, other fleets were preparing. The Varnak, still licking their wounds from the previous battle, were beginning to regroup. The Zothri were angry, their pride wounded. The Nirax were calculating, watching every move carefully. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity was at the center of it all. On the human warship, the crew was ready. They had fought for years in the dark, hidden away, waiting for this moment. Now that they had emerged, they knew what was at stake. They weren't just fighting for their survival, they were fighting to redefine the galaxy. Prepare for the next phase, Cross ordered. We've sent our message, and now we wait for the galaxy's response. Humanity's stand. The galaxy had never seen a war like this, an all-out struggle for power, alliances, and survival. In the past, conflicts were fought for control of resources or territory, but now, with humanity's unexpected return, the battle had taken on a new dimension. No longer were the galaxy's empires fighting simply to dominate. Now, they were fighting to prove who truly belonged in the stars, and who would be left behind. On board the human warship, Commander Alina Cross stood before a holographic map of the galaxy, the flickering lights of distant star systems reflecting in her eyes. The tension was palpable. After the confrontation with the Zothri and Nirax, humanity had made their stance clear. They would not bow to anyone, and they would not surrender. The galaxy's most powerful empires now knew that humanity had not only returned, they had come back with a force that couldn't be ignored. Commander, we've intercepted communications from the Nirax, Lieutenant Jackson said, his voice tense. They're moving their fleet toward Sector 54, and it looks like they're preparing for a major assault. Cross nodded slowly. She had expected this. The Nirax were cold and calculating, and they never made a move without purpose. However, there was something else at play, now a shift in the balance of power. It wasn't just about military strength. Humanity had something else, a desire to prove themselves, a fire that burned in every one of their crew members. They weren't going to just fight for their survival anymore. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. Send a message to all our allies, Cross said, her voice firm. We don't back down. Not now, not ever. Prepare for the fight of our lives. As the human warship powered up its engines, preparing to take the fight to the Nirax and any other empire that dared to challenge them. Cross thought about the alliances that had begun to form in the shadows. There were others. In the galaxy, like the mysterious Zethrels, a species once crushed under the weight of the Varnak, now rising to support humanity. The Zethrels had been waiting for a chance to strike back at the empires that had kept them in subjugation, and humanity's return had given them that chance. But the galaxy was vast, and not everyone had agreed to stand with humanity. There were still factions that believed a human presence would disrupt the delicate balance of power. The Varnak, the Zothri, and even the elusive Morthuk, the most secretive and dangerous species in the galaxy, was still determining their next move. The universe was on edge, and no one knew how the next few days would unfold. Commander, we've received a communication from the Zothri fleet, another officer reported, turning to face Cross. It's a direct challenge. They want to meet us in open space for a final confrontation. Cross's eyes hardened. The Zothri were ruthless, but they were also predictable. They valued their pride above all else, and the humiliation they suffered at the hands of humanity's warship was something they couldn't ignore. It was a challenge they couldn't back down from. Set the course, Cross ordered. We'll face them head on. But we need to send a message. This is more than a battle. This is a statement. The human warship adjusted its trajectory, heading toward the heart of the Zothri fleet. Every crew member on board could feel the tension building. The final battle was approaching. The warship's engines hummed, the weapons systems powered up, and the crew knew this was the moment they had been waiting for. They had nothing to lose. This was their fight for the future of humanity. In the depths of space, the Zothri fleet awaited, their enormous ships lined up in a vast formation. General Vrek stood at the head of the fleet, his eyes filled with the rage of defeat and the hunger for revenge. The last time he had encountered humanity's warship, his fleet had been torn apart. He wasn't about to let that happen again. They believe they can challenge us, Vrek muttered to his officers. They think they can take the galaxy from us. We'll show them the cost of defying the Zothri. As the two fleets closed in on each other, the tension in the air was unbearable. Every officer, every soldier, knew that this battle would define the future of the galaxy. If humanity succeeded again, the galaxy would have no choice but to accept them. But if the Zothri could crush them, they would reassert their dominance and send a message to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity was nothing more than a fleeting threat. The battle began with a deafening roar as both sides opened fire. The human warship's cannons erupted, firing blasts of concentrated energy that cut through the darkness. The Zothri responded in kind, their advanced weapon systems unleashing torrents of fire at the human ship. The warships collided in a spectacular display of power, their shields flaring with each impact. But humanity's warship was more than a match for the Zothri. The ship's advanced maneuvering systems allowed it to dodge the Zothri's most devastating blows. With every strike, humanity's warship retaliated with devastating precision. The Zothri fleet was forced to fall back, their ships reeling. "From the attack, we're winning, Commander," Jackson shouted. "We're pushing them back." But Cross knew they couldn't get complacent. This was just the beginning. The Zothri wouldn't give up easily, and there were other factions watching from the shadows. This battle might have been humanity's first victory, but the war was far from over, and as the human warship dealt the final blow to the last of the Zothri ships, Commander Cross made a vow: humanity would not be content to simply survive. They would take what was theirs, and the galaxy would have no choice but to recognize their strength.